But initially Satan puts weird ideas in our heads. He wants to manipulate us. He wants us to have false guilt and shame. I felt like I was a failure, but it had nothing to do with me. I had done everything that I could do. But Satan wants to hold us back. And if you feel that you're alone, you're not. And so any of you women who have gone through that and don't feel like you have anyone to talk to, then please come to me. I'll be willing to pray with you and love you. There are many other women in the Bible who are an example of strength. And there are especially times where God calls out a little bit of warrior that He's put in each one of us women. And there's a story in Matthew 21 through 28. And Joy originally chose this text, and I read through it, and it was one of those where I thought, what is going on here? Because it's so different and so uncharacteristic from how Jesus responds in so many other situations. And so it really helped me to wrestle with the text and really understand the Lord more through it. It's a story of a woman, because of her humility, endurance, persistence, and her great faith, that compelled Jesus to heal her daughter. And I hope that it'll be a lesson for hope for any of you who are waiting on answers to your prayers. And I've asked a couple of my friends to help me with this text a little bit, so if you could come up. Can you repeat the text? Yeah, I'm sorry. Matthew 15. And it's verses 21 through 28. Starting in verse 21. Leaving that place, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Canaanite woman from that vicinity came to him, crying out,
Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is suffering terribly from demon possession.
Jesus didn't answer a word, so his disciples came to him and urged him,
Send her away, for she keeps crying after us.
I was only sent to the lost sheep of Israel.
The woman came to him and fell at his feet.
Lord, help me.
It is not right to take the children's bread and to toss it to their dogs.
Yes, Lord, but even the dogs eat crumbs that fall from the master's table.
Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted.
And her daughter was healed from that very hour. Amen. Thank you, friends. So let's set the stage a little bit for these verses. It helps to make sense a little bit why the words that Jesus chose. Jesus had just been sparring with the scribes and the Pharisees over. The Pharisees had made the remark that Jesus and his disciples hadn't washed their hands in the proper traditional cleansing way prior to eating. That the Pharisees had made a mountain of rules and regulations that covered up the real issue, people's sin and the love of God. So the heart of God was disguised by this mountain of rules and regulations. And Jesus, after having sparred with them, trying to teach them that it's not all about these traditions and going through these motions, it's about the heart of God. So even Jesus needed a rest. In Mark 7, verse 24, telling of the same story, it says that Jesus left that place, being Tyre and Sidon, and went to a house and did not want anyone to know it. So he was going there for rest. He didn't want anyone to know where he was going, and he knew that the Jewish people that the Jewish leaders wouldn't follow him there, because Tyre and Sidon is part of the Decapolis, or a Greek Syro-Phoenician area where it was primarily Gentile. So the Jewish leaders wouldn't set foot in there. Mark 7 continues to say, but he would not be hidden. And a little bit of prefacing, a background. In Mark 3, we read that there are a lot of folks from Galilee going across the border, and they were going primarily to hear Jesus. And in the book of Luke, it tells us that after the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus came down to a larger crowd, among whom many were from Tyre and Sidon. So no doubt they were hearing all these stories of the wonderful Master and then going back home and sharing the news. Wouldn't you all do that? If I were sitting at Jesus' feet and seeing the miracles and just the wonderful stories that he was telling, I would want to go home and tell everyone. So we have a feeling that maybe this Canaanite woman had heard some of those stories, and that's what compelled her then to approach Jesus. She, being a Canaanite woman, she was a descendant of a people who had been slated for God's judgment in the Old Testament days because of their great sin. So the odds were stacked against her. She was from a condemned group. She was in a Gentile town, approaching a Jewish man surrounded by Jewish disciples who didn't have much time for her, as evidenced by the preferred Jewish name for Gentiles as being dogs or scavengers. This woman had a great and desperate need which compelled her. And so she knew that Jesus was the only one that could help her. But God comes for all of his creation, for everyone who needs him. Amen?
Amen.
But why did God originally choose the Jews? It was simply so that through them the world would know who the Messiah was. To that nation he gave great promises, prophets, signs, and wonders so no one would miss his arrival. Unfortunately, the people chosen to deliver the message became proud and exclusive, thinking they alone were in and everyone else was out. But that wasn't the Lord's intention. So the disciples were going to learn that lesson beginning here on the road with Jesus and with this Canaanite woman. So Matthew 15, verse 22, it records that she fell at Jesus' feet and she said, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David." So this Gentile woman of Greek descent, she knew a different God for every day of the week, but she still used a Jewish title for the Messiah. She was essentially saying, "I'm looking for mercy from you, the promised one." She isn't Jewish and didn't know that she could claim any of God's promises, but she spoke the truth and knowledge of who Jesus was. The verses also state that the Canaanite woman was, that her daughter was possessed by a demon. We've come to the Master's feet in this church here today, with whatever that we have going on in our lives, whatever troubles. And like this Canaanite woman, each one of us needs to cry out to Jesus to give him all that we have, telling him exactly what our problems are. Amen. And only through his guidance can we get through it. What demon has possessed you or your loved ones over the years? Demons come in all forms. One thing that we know is that demons cause hurt, harm, and undesirable or disturbing behavior. Demons are something that we create for ourselves, unhealthy as they may be, or that we're affected by other people. It could be a demon of greed, of selfishness, of possessions or pride, of laziness or poor self-esteem. It could be a demon of alcohol, of adultery, stealing or cheating, a demon of neglect or abuse, or a literal demon such as the one possessing the Canaanite woman's daughter. But why don't we choose to ignore all the wrong advice and suggestions that come our way from the enemy?